The Roman Empire did not fall because barbarians arrived at the gates. Its collapse was preceded by a century-long, self-inflicted mathematical error in monetary policy. To understand the error, we have to look at the baseline. Around 211 BC, Rome formalized a currency system anchored by the silver denarius. This was a true commodity currency. It consisted of roughly 4.5 grams of near-pure silver. The value of the coin was exactly equal to the lump of metal it was made from. Because the money had intrinsic physical value, expanding the economy required acquiring actual assets. Emperor Augustus did exactly this. After conquering Egypt, he flooded the Roman market with captured physical gold and silver, injecting hard commodities directly into the financial system. The macroeconomic result was immediate. With a massive influx of legitimate, asset-backed currency, the cost of borrowing plummeted. Interest rates dropped from 12% down to 4%. Trade expanded, and the Roman economy boomed. This ancient system operated on a strict physical standard, similar to how modern central banks hold physical gold reserves to backstop their balance sheets. Because every denarius required actual silver to produce, the state faced a hard mathematical limit. The government was restricted from artificially printing money to pay for immediate political problems. The money supply could only grow if the empire's actual wealth grew. That mathematical restriction became a massive liability during the reign of Emperor Nero. Nero faced a severe fiscal crisis. He wanted to fund lavish public works and extensive welfare programs, but he lacked the physical treasury to do it. Raising explicit taxes on citizens carries heavy political consequences, so Nero looked for an alternative. He found his solution in the mint. Rather than issuing a direct tax, Nero implemented a covert tax. He realized he could extract wealth from the population by physically altering the currency they already used. This chart visualizes the mechanics of Nero's debasement. He ordered the mints to shave down the weight of the denarius from 3.9 grams to 3.4 grams. Then he diluted the remaining metal, dropping the pure silver content from 97.5% to 93.5%, replacing the missing silver with cheap base metals like copper. By decreasing the intrinsic value of each individual unit, the state was able to mint more total coins using the exact same silver reserves. This effectively increased the monetary base, also known as M0, the total amount of currency in general circulation, by roughly 7%. This artificial monetary expansion worked temporarily. The new influx of coins created the illusion of economic recovery and provided Nero with the immediate cash flow needed to cover his budget deficit without passing a single tax law. However, Nero broke the hard money seal. He demonstrated to every future emperor that the state could manipulate the physical value of money for short-term political gain. Successive emperors relied on Nero's playbook. Over the next century, whenever the treasury ran low, the mints reduced the silver content further. Roman coins steadily shifted from heavy, shining silver to light, dark, copper-heavy discs. This physical alteration triggered a core macroeconomic principle known as Gresham's law. Gresham's law states that bad money drives out good money. When a population is forced to use a dual currency system, rational economic actors will separate the assets. Roman citizens hoarded the old, pure silver coins under their mattresses and strictly spent the newly debased copper coins at the markets. The consequences extended far beyond local markets. Foreign trade partners, specifically merchants in India, quickly identified the debased Roman coins and flatly refused to accept them for luxury goods. Because foreign markets demanded actual value, Rome was forced to settle its trade deficits using its remaining pure silver. The empire effectively shipped its actual wealth overseas to buy imports, while keeping the heavily debased currency trapped inside its own borders. The public is highly sensitive to purchasing power. When a state drastically inflates its currency, citizens evaluate their money based on its physical intrinsic value rather than the face value stamped on the metal. This triggers rapid capital flight. Economic agents both at home and abroad entirely ignored the government's statutory pricing. They adjusted the cost of goods to match the reality of the degraded metal. By the 3rd century, the compounding fiscal crisis reached a breaking point. The Roman budget had swelled to 200 million denarii a year, required to feed a sprawling bureaucracy and pay an enormous military. The government resorted to overt counterfeiting. Emperor Caracalla introduced a new coin called the Antoninianus, claiming it was a double denarius. It was a lie. By AD 270, this coin contained only 25% silver. It was essentially a copper washer dipped in a thin layer of silver. This absolute loss of state credibility triggered a massive spike in money velocity. Money velocity measures how fast currency changes hands in an economy. Realizing the coins were losing value daily, citizens spent the coins instantly to avoid holding depreciating assets. Combining a hyper-expanded base of worthless coins with maximum money velocity created catastrophic demand-pull inflation. Demand-pull inflation occurs when an oversupply of money chases a limited supply of goods, driving prices up exponentially. The crisis became so acute that in AD 271, the workers at the Roman Mint actually went on strike. The very people manufacturing the state currency stopped working because the money they were producing was economically worthless. When the collective trust holding a monetary system together breaks, the market infrastructure fails. Rome, an empire of massive aqueducts and sophisticated trade networks, devolved back into a primitive barter economy, where citizens traded chickens for shoes. In AD 301, Emperor Diocletian decided to halt the hyperinflationary spiral through direct authoritarian intervention. He issued the Edict on maximum prices. This established a statutory price ceiling on over 1,000 everyday goods, including wheat, wine, and labor. The penalty for selling or buying above the emperor's fixed price was death. Diocletian committed a severe economic error. He attempted to legislate the symptoms of inflation, the rising prices, rather than addressing the root cause, which was the massive expansion of the money supply. Looking at a standard supply and demand curve, we can see why this fails. Setting a hard price ceiling below the actual cost of production completely breaks the market's internal price signaling mechanism. If it costs a farmer more to grow wheat than the government allows him to sell it for, the farmer simply stops bringing wheat to the market. This creates systemic shortages, drives transactions into explosive black markets, and generates massive deadweight loss, a measure of lost economic efficiency when supply and demand fall out of equilibrium. Statutory price controls cannot override the mathematical laws of supply and demand. It failed for Diocletian under the threat of execution, just as similar price ceilings failed during the Nixon administration's inflation shocks in the 1970s. Modern economists use the Roman collapse to argue two competing theories about the core nature of money. The first theory is metallism. Metallism argues that money must possess intrinsic physical value, like gold or silver, specifically to prevent the state from manipulating the supply. From the metallist perspective, Rome fell for a mechanical reason. Extracting physical silver from the coinage removed the anchor of value, directly causing the economic ruin. The opposing theory is chartalism. Chartalists argue that money requires no physical backing whatsoever. They define money simply as a token of state credit, given value by the government's ability to collect taxes in that specific currency. According to chartalists, the lack of silver didn't doom Rome. Rome failed because the state rapidly produced tokens to hide its deficits, completely destroying its own institutional credibility in the process. Despite their differences, both camps agree on the outcome. Rome collapsed because the government broke its social contract with the people using its currency. Today, the global economy operates entirely on fiat currency. Our money is not backed by commodities. It is backed by the full faith and credit of the issuing governments. This system is a Faustian bargain. We traded the strict mathematical limitations of a gold standard for unparalleled policy flexibility. The mechanics have evolved. Instead of physically shaving edges off metal coins, modern central banks engage in quantitative easing. They expand the M2 money supply, which includes cash, checking deposits, and easily convertible near money, through digital ledger entries. This extreme flexibility allows modern economies to rapidly inject liquidity and survive massive systemic shocks, like the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 pandemic. Yet modern fiat systems carry the exact same systemic risk that doomed Rome. The temptation remains to use monetary expansion as a covert tax, quietly inflating away severe budget deficits. Modern states have successfully changed the physical composition of currency, but no state, ancient or modern, can legislate away the macroeconomic consequences of its supply.